Matthew chapter 24, verse number 34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. As we go back and look, we can see where when the disciples came to him in verse number 3, when he talked about the destruction of the temple, no stone left upon another. Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? The first thing Christ talked about was false Christ coming in his name. Then he went on to talk about war and rumors of war. Nation shall rise against nation. Then they'll be delivered up. You can see that so many of these things happened in their lifetime. Here, you can read this if you would like. We will scroll through this. It talks about the Great Revolt, the Jews' Great Revolt. And it's startling how accurate this is. And basically, this really started happening very shortly in the lifetimes of the apostles. You can see with the half-crazed Emperor Caligula in the year 39, about a decade from the death or so of Jesus himself, of these very words. How he said that he later on will be a deity, or he was a deity, and everyone had to worship him. How he demanded an image of him be set up in all the temples throughout the region. But the Jewish people would not set an image of any deity up in the temple. Caligula was so outraged, he was going to wipe all of them out. But except for his sudden death, that's the only thing that averted this. And then this spurred up the zealots, who later on was instigators or the prime culprits from a historical point of view of the Great Revolt. And the Great Revolt of the Jews against the Rome, nation rising against nation, and how they was delivered up is truly horrific. What happened, the starvation that they suffered inside of Jerusalem while Rome, the Roman army, besieged them round about, is spoken of in the Torah. Moses talked about how they would eat one another and how they were so starving to death, and it was just such a catastrophe. We have one account that talks about how the Roman soldiers had exposed themselves and burnt the Torah. And all of this is leading up to the Great Revolt. And then in 66, that's when the Great Revolt actually started. And on top of having a Roman army on the outside getting ready to besiege Jerusalem, you had a civil war going on in the inside where they burned the food supply. It was truly horrific. And you talk about up to 1 million Jews died in the Great Revolt. And then shortly after that, the Bar Kokhba Revolt, another great massacre. And you see all of these dire warnings that Christ was warning them about, first played in their lifetime, but to be greater replayed in this last generation. You see, the words of Christ are so profound, they carry meaning that's vast. How Christ can give a warning now, but then it may contain, or it may be applicable for some future event as well. And such it was with its warnings in this 24th chapter. It applied to the disciples, and as we know, the temple was destroyed. No stone was left upon another. Caligula did make himself a deity. That was the start of it. Just like Christ predicted. God, we bless you. We give you glory, honor, and praise. Have your way. Thank God.